Welcome back. I have on this channel a question, a long-standing question. This person's been waiting very patiently to hear me answer this. And so I want to talk about Darshan Dependence, the mystery of Shaktipat, and the guru and disciple relationship. And I'm going to talk around these things, and I hope that you will come to your own conclusions, because I really can't tell you what to do in the heart of your hearts. That is really your process. And there's this beautiful story in the autobiography of a yogi where Babaji tells Lahiri Mahashaya, he says, what you're doing, you're excluding the value of the student soul searching. So don't forget that. Don't forget that need for your students to soul search inside of their own hearts and come to their own conclusions in their own process. It's very, very valuable, and it's something that I can't touch on that inside of you. Of course, I'm just going to talk around things and give you some ideas to think about, so maybe we can get some more clarity on these issues. So I called this video Darshan Dependence because I see some yogis, not a lot, but some yogis are very into getting that particular darshan from that particular person. And there's something beautiful about that. And there's something not quite right. If we want to go and see someone and it means a lot to us, well, then of course we should go see them. But when we put them too high on a pedestal and we put them too far away from ourselves, when we forget the actual role of the guru, then we begin to get a little bit of confusion. And this was so perfectly stated by the Zen Buddhists. They said, if you meet the Buddha on the road, kill him. Oh my goodness, that's kind of a startling statement. Kill the Buddha? And what they're saying is, if you meet somebody and you pin all of your hopes and your dreams into that one person, well, you've missed the point. And so you've actually destroyed your practice in that moment, because that person can't walk the path for you. You actually have to walk it yourself, right? The basis of yoga, the glory of yoga, is that I am not looking for an intermediary. I am going to find the answer myself. I want to run the scientific experiment myself. So I'm not just going to read about another lab's conclusions. I'm not going to read about somebody else's experiences. I'm going to run the experiment myself and see what happens inside of my own meditative laboratory, inside of my own mind, inside of my own parasympathetic system. I'm going to find my answers. And they're going to be archetypal answers. They're going to line up with the findings of many yogis through many hundreds of years. And so we have all this beautiful history in the practice of yoga and Buddhism and meditation from culture to culture to culture. And when I touch on these deep experiences, I'm going to find that they're going to line up. And that is a confirmation. I seem to be on the right track because I'm following the people who have gone before me, the great ones who have walked in front of me. And I'm actually standing on their shoulders because they said do this and they said do that and they said do that. And I did those things, and it was very helpful. So I'm standing on their recommendations. I'm standing on their shoulders. I'm walking the way that they walked, and I'm seeing the same signs. And that lets me know I'm going in the correct direction. It's very similar to any profession. Yogananda said, if you're going to become a great businessman, it would make sense to hang out with great businessmen. If you're going to become a great teacher, it would make sense to hang out with great teachers. So if the foundation of yoga, more than any other spiritual philosophy, is that I'm going to run the experiment by myself and I'm going to find out for myself without an intermediary, if that is the core of yoga, then being darshan dependent, like I have to get a darshan from this person or that person, and that's going to change me, that kind of dependence is anti-yoga. If I have to get Shaktipat from one person, and that's the only way it's going to work, that's anti-yoga, right? Now we're dependent on somebody else. So I want to share with you a story. It's kind of a horrible story, but it's very educational. So I was in the ashram and I had a lot of friends. And one of those friends called me up and he said, this other friend of ours went to Florida, got an initiation, got a Shaktipat, saw the spiritual eye. And I'm like, great, that's wonderful. Good for him. I hope it works well for him. And he goes, he keeps calling me up. I said, really? Yeah, he keeps calling me up. And he keeps telling me I am lost. I don't have a guru. I'm going to be lost maybe for lifetimes. And I'm on the phone going, okay, where's the end of the joke? There was no end of the joke. He was taunting my friend over and over again. And this went on for months. I have a guru, you don't. I have the real diksha, blah, blah, blah. I have the real technique. And, you're going to be lost for lifetimes. You couldn't make it. These guys had decades of contact with spiritual thought. How can you go so wrong? How can you go so wrong? This is all very, very wrong. Finally, I told my friend, I said, please don't tell me the story anymore. And why are you still taking his call? Tell him to hit the road. You don't need this kind of junk. This is totally upside down. This is not true spirituality. Does it sound like spirituality? It doesn't. It's not. It's totally upside down. It really bothered me because I like this person. And I sat there and I thought about how can they have it so wrong? And then it hit me. They're still in the stories. They're still living the story, looking for the story, trying to live the story instead of trying to live the reality. They're hanging their hat on an outward form instead of understanding who is the true guru. That is definitely anti-yoga, okay? So when you meet somebody and you get initiated by somebody, there is a great potential for energy transfer. And now people get very hung up on this, that there has to be an energy transfer, and that's how the Kundalini is awakened, and that's how all of this happens. It can happen that way. I've talked to people, they went to a weekend Kundalini experience, and they Kundalini awakened, and it was good for them, or it was bad for them. It can happen that way. They talked to somebody, the person was very spiritual, and they were never quite the same again. It can happen. Energy transfer can happen. But it happens all the time, and not just with people. The story of Ramakrishna, he was 6 years old, and he was walking by the waterway, and there were all these beautifully dark clouds up above, and suddenly a magnificently white crane flew between him and the clouds. And the awe and the grandeur of that moment was so overwhelming, he went into an ecstasy and he was completely incapacitated. He fell down. They had found him and they carried him home. That is an energy transfer, isn't it? That is a Shaktipat. Nobody came and slapped his forehead. He saw it in nature. And that's when we're attentive, when we are paying attention, when we are mindful, when we are sensitive, when we are here and now. We're paying attention, we're conscientious, we're just relaxed and in the moment, right? That's sensitivity. And so if we breeze through our life and we're frenetic wherever we go, we'll never notice anything. Krishna, they say, had 108 gurus, and one of them was a bee. When was the last time that you noticed a bumblebee and thought about the bumblebee scurrying around and collecting honey all day? He didn't collect garbage, he collected honey all day. Well, Krishna thought about it. When was the last time you saw an ant and you said, look, the ant collects sugar and it leaves the salt untouched? And there's plenty of salt in our lives, isn't there? But we can leave it untouched and gather the sugar. And Krishna saw that. Krishna noticed that. When was the last time you noticed something like that? Or did you notice the joy of a child and go, oh my God, this is so beautiful and so instructive to me. I needed to see that right now. And in this way, your whole life becomes a spiritual experience. You don't have to travel to Florida to get a Shaktipat. Every moment in your life turns into a learning experience. So when people come to me for an initiation, wild things happen, but I never expect anything. It's just not my place. So the person comes to me, I initiate them, I give them the technique, I do breathe through them, which is traditional. That's what I received from Ashok Singh, and that's what I do for other people. And wonderful things can happen. But I never know what is going to happen. And I am outcome independent, all right? I already know how this works. I know how it's going to work for them if they keep running the experiment. But they have to run the experiment. It's not dependent on me. I am just a conduit for learning and feedback. And so they come to me, they tell me what they're doing. I give them, okay, try this, try this, try this. Okay, they try that out. They said, well, then I tried this. What do you think? Is that a good idea? Yes, it's a good idea. Or why don't you try this as well? Or why don't you do this instead? I think this might work better. And that's how it works. But if I'm outcome dependent, then I'm going to freak out and I'm going to worry and I'm going to get my energy through them and worry about it. And that doesn't sound spiritual at all, does it? Well, it's not. It's not spiritual. I'm outcome independent. And so I just do what I do, and whatever comes is what comes. And whatever it is, it will be right for them. So if you want to read a great book, read Autonomic Intelligence by John Alton. And in that book, he holds no bars, and he tells you what it was like to be a martial arts guru and to give Shaktipat. So he was in this martial arts world, and all of these students were coming to him, and they expected a very powerful Shaktipat. And so he was doing this real energetic Shaktipat, and he was outcome dependent. And he tells his entire experience of that, how it was horrible. He always had to impress them. He was always doing these crazy martial arts moves to impress his students and to keep them locked in. And so you can see that whole world and how it's, wait, this doesn't sound right. Well, it's not. And that's why he's telling you the story. It's all messed up. And he wants you to understand how messed up that is. It's a great, great book, great, great story. So having a guide is good. Having a good guide is invaluable. And it's not that the guide is going to be perfect. When you have a coach, it's not that the coach is perfect and has every single perfect answer for every situation. Maybe they do. Maybe they have an answer for every situation, and it always leads you in the right direction, and that's what you're looking for. You're looking for somebody who can coach you through the hard parts. The parts that you can't, you're trying to figure out the riddle and you can't figure out the riddle. Hey, can you help me with this riddle? And they give you the answer and you go, oh my God, that makes it so simple and it's so much clearer, and now I know what to do. It's not that they're going to do it for you. And that's, so when you see a Shaktipat or a Darshan Dependence and they're asking that person to do the work for them, this person is so spiritual that it's going to like get me out of my rut. Well, maybe the experience of being with that person will get you out of your rut. That's good. But if you're dependent on them and they are the cause of your spirituality, then something's misplaced. We're leading astray. That's the difference. Is it on me or is it on them? And it has to be on you to a certain degree because it's the internal experience, right? It's the work that you are doing. You don't have to stress out about it. It's a very long road. You just take your time. You do the heart rate variability resonance. You get the 4 proofs. You're already going deep. It's beautiful, right? You're already there. You're already on the track. If you're doing, you got hands hot and heavy, man, are you on the right track? Let me tell you, all my years of experience going down the wrong road, and I've set you on the right path so easily. It's such the perfect beginning. You can't mess up from that point. If you keep going with hands hot and heavy, you're on the right track. And that's what's so beautiful about what I teach. That's why I love it. But don't think that the guru is going to be perfect. And I had this idea that all my teachers were going to be perfect, and I tried to get really close and friendly with all of my all of my teachers. And at some point I realized this is a mistake. These people are not perfect. And I'm just really want to learn this thing. And so then I stopped like like trying to dig my nails into them. And I just kind of backed off and allowed it to kind of flower and flourish. And that's what worked for me, is to realize that the teacher is not going to be perfect. And Ashok, gee, I loved him to death. And he was fantastic in so many moments, but he was not perfect. And I didn't expect him to be perfect. And the people who expected him to be perfect left. And I was left with all of the Kriyas. And it's because I did not expect him to be perfect. It's a mistake. He's a human being. He's going through his own stuff. Yeah, he's going into samadhi. I watched him go into samadhi. The very first time I met him, I watched him go into, oh, wait, that was a samadhi. The very first time, he had so many good qualities, but I never expected him to be perfect. It was, if you meet the Buddha on the road, kill him. I was not waiting for the Buddha to be in front of me. I wanted what he had. So is it important to have a coach? Yes. Does it have to be this perfect guru-disciple relationship that we have romanticized? No. Does it have to be a guru-disciple relationship every single time? No. I've had people take the Big Bliss training and write me and tell me that, describe the experience. And I'm like, they described the experience that they went into, and it was I couldn't believe it. It was a samadhi. They went into a samadhi because they learned about the roll-up of consciousness, and so they're like, well, I'll just do this. And they just did it, and they rolled up and they expanded, and they went into a samadhi. I couldn't believe it. So was I a guru in that moment? I don't know. The training was the guru. It taught them the correct thing that they needed to know to further their experience, and it worked. Because of all the work that they had done before, they had lined themselves up for it, and it was just the perfect thing at the perfect time, and they went into a very deep experience. A coach is good, and that's a good way to think of a guru. He's going to lead me down the correct way. One of my favorite experiences is with a dear friend of mine. He lives in Canada. He's from a Brahmin family. And he's in his kitchen one day, and suddenly his whole body starts to shake. He starts going into a Kundalini reaction, and he tries to hold it together. And the more he holds it together, the more he feels like he's going to fly apart. So he just lets go and lets it flow through him. And he has the experience, and then he's okay. And he's like, okay, I better figure out about all this spiritual stuff. And so he went to India, and he started asking about Khechari. And he went from guru to guru to guru. And he got lots of answers. He got lots of people that didn't want to tell him anything, and some people that wanted to tell him a lot but didn't actually know what they were talking about. And finally he found somebody that could really teach him. And so I was talking with, so he called me up. He says, I have to talk to you about Khechari. And we had this wonderful conversation. And he told me, I want to give you this diksha. I want to give you this initiation, right? And on the phone, he just gave me all these secrets. And I was giving him all the secrets that I had. And together, it was just this free flow. And it was so beautiful. And it really reminded me of this story about Sri M. And he's hiking through the Himalayan mountains. And he meets this person and says, well, let me give you this diksha before I go. And he gives him this mantra. And then he's going along and oh, let me give you this diksha before we go. He keeps making friends with all of these yogis. And they're all just trading back their diksha, back and forth, back and forth. And it's this really easy, beautiful, free flow. And that, the real yogis that I have met, that is how it's been between us. That we've been just, the highest of friends, just a really beautiful meeting. Like, let me give you this, and oh, let me give you this. And it's just really beautiful. And so this whole world of Shaktipat and Diksha and up on a pedestal and let me bless you and it's only me, it's so not the world that I love in yoga. It's something else. It's not quite right. So I'll leave you with a quote from one of the greatest movies, Enter the Dragon with Bruce Lee. And he's teaching his student, and he goes, it's like a finger pointing at the moon. And then he slaps the guy. He says, don't concentrate on the finger, or you'll miss all that heavenly glory. That's really it. That's really it. If we concentrate too hard on the darshan and the Shaktipat that we miss the point that true guru is an internal experience. It's all waiting for you inside. And in the download phase, you will meet your higher self. It will begin to communicate with you. And that will lead you unerringly. That's the true guru. And my job is to help the student reach that point where they can interact with the higher self and get their questions answered directly. And so one of the ways you can begin doing that right now is if you have a deep question, take it with you when you're going to bed and pray. Pray to your Ishta. Imagine your Ishta or just feel your Ishta. If you're not good at visualization, don't worry about it. Just feel your Ishta, your favorite god or goddess, Krishna, Divine Mother, Heavenly Father, Baby Jesus, whoever it is, Buddha. Hold them in your heart. Pray to them and imagine that your message, keep it really short and succinct and very small little prayer, and send it to them and send it to them and send it to them until you feel some kind of connection. And do that every night, right before you fall asleep. Then let it go and just rest, relax, don't worry about it. An answer will come to you in the night. Or maybe it will come to you in the day. Or maybe at the end of your meditation it will just flash to you. And you will know, you'll have an idea of what my next step might be. And that's it. You just got your answer from the true guru inside. So I hope that you love this. If you did, be sure to hit that bell down below so I can see all of you next time.